The headline yesterday that shook up the NBA came from Rick Bucher, the Bleacher Report columnist and longtime great NBA insider. Why doesn't anyone want to play with LeBron anymore? And Rick had a lot of comments from Kevin Durant, and Rick joins us now. Rick, good morning. How surprised are you at the reaction to this column?
I'm not really surprised. It's LeBron. There's always a reaction. I mean, he has supported our industry more than any human being on the planet right now. If you write about LeBron, no matter what it might be, it is certainly going to generate a response. I believe that what was different here is that I was able to get a number of high-profile guys, not just Kevin Durant, but certainly Kevin Durant, speaking at length about LeBron and about the yin and yang of playing with LeBron, and the fact that you had people on the record talking about what it is that goes into playing with arguably still the best player in the league is what generated that response.
I'm curious the tone of Durant's comments, because sometimes you can read it and it reads differently, but what was the tone of his comments talking about the toxic atmosphere around LeBron?
Well, I think that has really been misrepresented as it has been truncated and dispersed through other outlets. He made a point that it's a toxic environment that is created by what he described as the fanboys in the media. And he says, the quote is there. He says it's not LeBron's fault at all. That quote or that aspect somehow didn't make it to the final version that everyone else has utilized, or even the fact that he's saying the media generates that. And he's saying it from the perspective of other players walking into it, that there is an idolatry when it comes to LeBron, that if you're another superstar or you're another player, walking into that and being surrounded by that on a daily basis, toxic is a little strong, but nonetheless, a weird, certainly a weird environment. And look, that's KD's perspective. He is certainly has a right to it. And I just, look, it's with anything. We can go back to the Heatles in Miami. We can go back to the Jordan Bulls days. Any great group has an entourage and has a buzz around it that creates a certain atmosphere and environment that, if not toxic, can certainly be powerful and strained. And if you're not conditioned for it, then it can be looked at as a negative.
Based on these comments, and maybe based on the comments alone, could Kevin Durant, would he want to be in this environment with LeBron James?
Yeah, well, and that's where sort of the nuance of the conversation, because he made a point of saying, guys like Kawhi and Paul George, he could see why they wouldn't want to be in this atmosphere. And he has been circumspect about, as I said in the story, he's been somewhat coy about what his plans are for next year. He's not committing one way or the other, whether he's staying at Golden State or exploring his free agent options. For all that he said, everything else that I know about where he's at mentally, I don't think that he's headed to LA. I don't think that he's headed to play with LeBron, largely because if he leaves Golden State, it's because he hasn't gotten the credit for what he's accomplished here because of what they already had. He wouldn't get that credit going to play with LeBron next. So he's looking for something other than that. But his description of that atmosphere, I don't believe is the thing that would discourage him from joining LeBron.
I was wondering about the personalities, and I felt all along if Kawhi left Toronto, and I don't even think he leaves Toronto, but if he ends up in L.A., it'd be with the Clippers. Paul George, I understand why he liked the atmosphere in Oklahoma City. There's certain guys who are just wired for certain city. Like Tim Duncan in New York, while he would have been a great player, he would have hated it. Like San Antonio was perfect for him. So that's why when if you go in with LeBron, man, you got to be all in, and it's coming at you in directions that you don't even see it coming. And it's like How do we create a story today? Other than LeBron had an unbelievable game last night, that's secondary. It's, I don't know, is he playing too many minutes? What's Kobe really saying about LeBron and we're going to win championship? It's there because everybody has got to get a story and it's got to be different. That's got to be tiring on these players.
Well, no doubt. And it's also, what's the redeeming value for you to be in that atmosphere? And as you know, any number of guys said to me off the record or just in conversation, if the team wins, if there's success, it's LeBron. And if the team somehow has some shortcomings, it's the supporting cast, and which means you, like anybody who's not LeBron, is the problem. It's the coach, it's the GM, it's the supporting cast, it's the second star who's not enough of a second star. And I think the great distinction here is that we've now seen all of this play out. We've seen Chris Bosh go and have to transform himself. We've seen Kevin Love have to transform himself. We've seen Kyrie Irving get beat up for what he is or he isn't. And don't you know that you're playing with LeBron James, and it's a different demand. And the reality is that, the players that I talk to will say LeBron has nothing to do with that. I'm not so sure about that. But the bulk of it does come from the media and the perception that we create.
Talking to Rick Bucher, Bleacher Report writer, columnist. Why doesn't anyone want to play with LeBron anymore is the title of his latest column. Okay, with that being said, give me the player that you think would want to go into this environment with LeBron next season.
I don't know of it's a matter of the players that are available.
Yeah.
And part of the challenge here is also they're all guys Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant. These are all ball handling forwards who can play either position. Well, that's essentially what LeBron is. So there's a duplication there, and not to say that duplication doesn't work, but again, for where these guys are, is it ideal? No, it's not ideal. So, I believe that ultimately the guy that the Lakers get to fill that spot isn't necessarily going to be a free agent. I mean, maybe it's a Chris Middleton. It's and no offense to Chris or any of the guys, but sort of that second tier guy who would step in and sign as a free agent. But that if they're going to get the big name, and Anthony Davis is the name that's out there the most, and certainly the clutch agency that LeBron is part of also represents AD, also represents Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. It's the DNA of clutch and the Lakers has really it's been synthesized now. They're making a deal for an AD, and I'm not reporting anything. I'm not suggesting something has been discussed, but I see it more likely that they trade away some of that young talent and get an Anthony Davis than I see them just outright signing a free agent.
What would they have to give up? Now, all hypothetical, but what would the Lakers have to give up to get Anthony Davis?
Look, it's going to be – I mean, that obviously is how good are the Pelicans in squeezing as much as they can. I would expect at this point, if you go through free agency or you look at free agents and you go, you know what, we're not going to get somebody. And LeBron's here and he's turned 34 this year and he's about to turn 35 next season. Like, we need to make this happen now. The leverage certainly would be from the Pelican side of things, their ability to say, we want picks, we want, Ingram, we want Lonzo Ball, we want at least two of your young stars, and we want at least two draft picks going forward because we're taking a seminal talent, we're taking a franchise cornerstone, and we're moving him your way. And it becomes a cat and mouse game because at this point, AD still has enough left on his contract that it's not the Pelicans are forced to make a move, but at the same time, if it's made clear to them that he's not staying, you want to get as much as you can to keep the ball moving.
And this is what I wanted to know with the Lakers is can you keep this team intact just to find out what you have this year? Or are they going to run the risk of we're not as good as people expect us to be? Or you make one of those moves where you – like I just want to see what – if Ingram continues to get better or Kuzma, Lonzo, you can deal him. But I just want to know if you feel like, hey – do we really need a big name, or can we get two contributing guys? Like I don't know. It's just a feeling out process, Rick, that I think it's really it's sensitive for the Lakers because Magic is so competitive. You want to win. You want to have a good product. You've waited for this moment, and it feels like you're going to have to wait till next year to really roll out the product that you want.
Well, and I believe that's true. And I believe they knew that going into this year, that this was going to be a year of discovery. And this is where it does get tricky time-wise because of where LeBron is in his trajectory. So it is, but this was tricky from the very beginning. And the bottom line is that are you going to say no to LeBron? No, you're not. If you're the Lakers, you're not saying no to LeBron. But you also have to go into it with eyes wide open as far as where he is in his career and what you have on your roster. And the real giveaway in terms of that they were willing to utilize this year as a point of discovery for their young talent is that they signed all the veteran talent they got are all on one-year deals. They were preserving the space for next year. And I do believe that they'll figure out who fits and who doesn't. A lot of this, too, is, and this goes back kind of to the story, which is, everything always naturally gravitates to LeBron being at the center of things. Can he shift and make room for other guys to contribute? And can you make that work? Because generally the way teams that he has competed with that have challenged for championships, they have been specific. They've been built with role players, great role players, but role players. And most people would look at it and go, gosh, it's too bad that LeBron can't get that great superstar next to him. The superstars that came in were diminished into role players when they came in. Chris Bosh, Kevin Love, I'm old enough to remember what they were before they got there. And it was unique with Dwayne Dwayne Wade because of the relationship that they had. Yeah. But even Dwayne Wade had to go from the leader of that team to LeBron. It's really time for you to take over. And so ultimately that worked, but it worked largely because of the relationship that was already established.
I'll leave you with this. The team that goes further in Los Angeles this year is the Clippers of the Lakers.
I love what the Clippers have become, but as you and I both know, the postseason is different than the regular season. I could see where the Clippers actually have a better regular season record than the Lakers, but the Lakers, because of LeBron, largely because of LeBron, but Rajon Rondo, they have some veterans who have been through the battles. They scare me more than what the Clippers have because it comes down to who's your star, who leads you in that postseason, who can get a bucket when all else has failed. Clippers are a nice story, and they're a nice team. They don't have that proven track record in the postseason.
Good to visit with you, Rick. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate the time.
Always, DP.
Thank you, bud. Why doesn't anyone want to play with LeBron anymore? That's Rick Bucher. Bleacher Report.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.